Welcome to the worst nightmare of all. Reality.
Explore the lesser-known stories of our unknown world. Join the pursuit of the paranormal with Ash and Greg.
So tonight we are joined by Mike Earl. Welcome along, Mike. We spoke to Mike in December last year when we talked about his journey on developing mediumship and sort of a skill, if you will, or like a newfound part of his life. And we talked about how he was getting on with it and what he was doing around that. So we thought we'd get you back on because Mike has now got a new paranormal YouTube channel. And also we'll catch up about a little bit later about me and Mike going on a paranormal investigation together about a week or so ago. So that'll all be good fun. So welcome along, Mike. How are you doing?
Welcome back.
Hello, all good, thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Is this welcome back the second time tonight?
Yeah, it may be.
I'll edit that bit out.
We don't talk about that.
No, this is the second time of us recording this. How are you doing? So what have you been up to since December? Talk to us.
Yeah, doing well, as you mentioned. Basically started a ghost hunting, paranormal investigating sort of thing. YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Where me and my fiance Patsy are basically trying to go and do ghost hunting without, I guess, trespassing anywhere by mixing it with the whole urbex thing like a lot of the channels do. And also not trying to fake anything, just trying to basically go out and see if we can capture anything and see if anything's interesting, because if you're recording it anyway, you might as well you dump it somewhere, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you've been up to 30 East Drive, so that's probably a good place to have a quick start, because on our last episode we were talking to Mike Earl about 30 East Drive, following Most Haunted and the live. So you went up there. What did you find? What did you feel? And what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so it's definitely got a very weird vibe about it, and it definitely feels like there's something about it rather than it just being a hoax. Because I've heard a lot of people say they've gone up there after watching, say, one of the TV channels or one of the TV shows and nothing happening.
Yeah.
In terms of what we found, there was a point where a REM pod was going off upstairs.
Yeah.
And now my REM pod was upstairs, so I had to basically run up to get it. And as I'm stood at the bottom of the stairs looking up, I'm sort of thinking, do I really want to go up there when it's pitch black? And obviously there's a lot of stuff related around them. And I'm stood there for a couple of seconds thinking about it, and next thing you know, a motion light halfway down the stairs goes on or goes off. And so at that point, I was just like, no thanks. I'm not brave enough to go up there at the moment.
So did you get a feeling of what it might have been? Whether
not necessarily that. It's, I mean, the whole Black Monk story, obviously there's no basis for that. There was a point quite early in the evening where the first time I walked into the parents' room just after coming out of Philip's room. Now, Philip's room was fine, but walking into the parents' room, there was an immediate feeling of like we weren't welcome there or something didn't want us there. And I was just a bit like, no, I'm not really comfortable in this room. We need to get out, sort of thing. But that was also
that's the main bedroom, isn't it? Sort of the main sort of.
Yeah. It was also it only happened once, and that was the first time entering it early in the night as well. Because later on, I was up there by myself, and I felt fine apart from hearing the music box on the stairs go off, which I thought was the other guests, but when I actually reviewed the footage that I had, I don't think it could have been.
Okay.
Because they were all long gone by that point into the living room.
Okay. Wow.
And again, while I was at the top of the stairs, the music box goes off. I come out to the main bedroom, and as I'm looking down the stairs, again, the same motion light is on halfway up the stairs, and I'm just like, okay.
So what's the music box?
So it's a motion censored music box, basically. So it's like a lot of the lights are motion censored as well. So anything that passes it, basically, it just plays a little tune that's normally something suitably creepy. But yeah, like it could just be dust or it could just be anything. But paranormal folk seem to love that sort of stuff. So
yeah. REM pod bears is another one.
Yeah, and all the haunted dolls.
Don't even get me started on that.
There was a point later on as well where I went into the coal store by myself, and it's pitch black in there, and I basically had my torch in my hand, but I had my thumb on the buttons. Basically, if anything happened, I got freaked out. I could have just quickly let the button go to flip my torch on. And it was almost as if there was a sound of fingernails tapping on the walls, and it's like it started next to me, sort of on the left, and then moved to the right, and then was like above me. And I was in there for approximately 10 to 30 seconds before I sort of thought, no, thank you, and got out.
And the walls there are quite thick. It's not like a new build. It's quite an oldish house, isn't it? So I know I've been in that coal room, and it's like brick walls either side. So it's not like a thin wall where people tap in and whatnot.
Absolutely, this is the thing. When I was in there with no lights and everything, the tapping sounded like, as I say, like a fingernail, but on like plasterboard or something.
Okay, yeah.
Or like if you've got a like a fake wall in your house where it's just or a stud wall, as some people call them. It sounded like that, but when I looked later, you're right, it's just like white painted brickwork. And I was like, the sound that a tap on a brick would make doesn't sound like what I assumed it was. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, interesting. And it's funny because I had a weird experience in that same coal room as well. We had like an Alice box thing in there, and I can't remember what it said. But at that point, it was just like that was something that too much of a coincidence for it being something else that happened that night as well. So it was just like that's weird.
And this is the thing, right? Sometimes you sometimes I feel that you're sort of not even trying to prove that something's paranormal. You're just trying to find things that are potentially too much of a coincidence to be a coincidence, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good way of looking at it, really, because I think some people are too adamant that something that they've heard is necessarily ghostly or whatever.
Absolutely.
If you can say that couldn't have happened, that's too much of a coincidence for that to have happened, then you start almost debunking yourself, because you kind of say, well, actually, there's no way that could have happened. Like you said, with the music box, that couldn't have happened because I reviewed everything and people were downstairs and whatnot, so it couldn't have been them.
Yeah. And
if it wasn't them, what was it type thing?
And this is it. Unfortunately, you don't really get to see it in the video, but you've been there. Those stairs make a hell of a noise when you're going up and down them.
Yeah.
And prior to that, there's no like creaks or anything on them. The music box just goes off randomly. Again, it could just be dust, or it could be like an insect gone past or anything. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those odd things. Going back to
did you get the feeling that the house was particularly sort of haunted? Or I know that's a bit of a weird term nowadays, especially now we've been doing the podcast for so long. Was it haunted there?
It is. I don't. I'd kind of argue what constitutes to something being haunted. Like, is it haunted, or is it just a weird place that's, I don't know. Yeah. It depends what you believe, I suppose, in terms of what a haunting is and what ghosts are. Because if it's let's say, for instance, that it's not the traditional thought of ghosts, as in spirits of dead people, but it's people in a parallel universe.
Yeah.
Is it just that it's a place where the veil between universes are thinner or something?
Yeah.
And that's what makes it haunted, so to speak. I wouldn't say it's 100% haunted, but I would say it's very interesting, and there's a vibe about the place that makes me want to go back there a lot.
Yeah. It's a strange place when you rock up there. It's quite
so weird. My God, like, we turned up and I'm like, is this it? Like, this place?
Yeah.
Just like, it's just an
Like
unassuming council house.
Yeah,
Unassuming
in the middle
council
of an
house
estate.
or an estate, yeah. And when we came out at 3 o'clock, there was some people sat in their car outside the house, just like looking at it. And I was just like, what is going on? There was, saying that, you've just reminded me, there was a point where we'd turned up, and I was basically outside getting B-roll for the YouTube channel, so I'm there like filming the outside and filming the door and stuff. And then as I've gone back to the car, Patsy's gone, something weird to me has just happened while you were there. I'm like, right, okay. And basically, from the driver's seat where I'd got up and got out, seemingly some items in the front pocket of her bag, namely, I think it was a lip balm and like a little quartz crystal we'd been given, somehow found their way onto my driver's seat.
Okay.
So these are in the front pocket of her like backpack bag between her legs on the footwell of the passenger seat. My arse has been on that seat for the last 10-15 minutes where I've been driving, and then somehow these two items have seemingly apported from a bag that's not been on my seat onto the seat. And we were just like, again, I have to believe her, but I'm like, there's got to be some logical explanation, surely, because I don't want to strange in the fiction sort of thing.
Yeah, I suppose it's easier to believe that somebody's or some logical things happened rather than they're illogical.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's even more weird than.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why, like, even in terms of the YouTube channel, I'm very, very reluctant to ever say that anything's paranormal, because unfortunately I'm not a scientist, and there could be a lot more going on that's perfectly normal that I don't know about. But I just kind of want to find interesting things and present it and say, here you go, this is what we found, make your own mind up, sort of thing.
So where else have you been investigating on the YouTube channels?
So we've only done the 3, haven't we? We've done 30 East Drive. We've done the Golden Fleece in York, which is allegedly York's most haunted pub.
Okay.
And that was an interesting one because there's a load of... I basically set a camera up in the bathroom while we were sleeping. And there's a load of like weird knocks and stuff. Now, initially I thought it was maybe just like some of the components in the camera expanding as it's on, and the metal was getting hotter and this, that, and the other. But then from doing our third investigation at Minster Lovell and having the same setup of a camera on a tripod. Now, admittedly, it was windy and it was outside, but none of those noises happen whatsoever throughout the night. So I'm like, well, does that mean it's not the camera then?
Yeah.
But it's just those 3 through the YouTube channel. Obviously, I used to be part of a events group where I investigated a bunch more places, but unfortunately, I don't have any footage of those.
So we went to Minster Lovell, and it's a place that we've spoken about on here in our first Christmas special all those years ago in December 2020, where we discussed the story of the fiancée playing hide and seek, and she won because she they didn't find her until a little bit later when they found her body in a chest in the loft. So yeah, great. She did win. You can't. You guys laughing about it, but she did win. Probably not the best way of winning, but so yeah, we went down there. Mike was like, "Oh, I'm going down And Minster Lovell was literally just around the corner for me. It took me about 5 minutes to get there.
Yeah, you had it. You had it easy, mate.
Yeah, I did. I did. And it's like a ruins now. There's a bit of a plan there, so you can see the old buildings. And we set up some equipment, had a bit of a go, see what we could find.
Anything happened? Because I know you guys went there, but not really. Greg's not really told me anything.
We haven't really caught up about it, have we?
We found a lot of wind.
Yeah, we did find a lot of wind.
And some
wind. So.
And some youths smoking weed as well.
Yeah. Although, to be fair to them, they were climbing all over the fucking place at one point.
They were.
And it was a bit weird. And then two of them sort of come up to us and said about, are you looking for ghosts?
Yeah, are you guys ghost hunting?
And they proceeded to tell us some stories about what was going on there. It's just like, okay.
That's cool.
Yeah, like in terms of the general public, they were actually all right, because like even when we went into the chapel bit, they were like, "Oh, are you guys in here now? Oh, okay, well," and they went off somewhere else. I was like, fair play. Like at least they're letting us get on with it, rather than some people would be super disruptive. And
that's the kind of youth we get in Oxfordshire.
Posh youths.
Yeah.
That's us, because we've done sky watches, and like sometimes, especially it's a weekend night, it's night time, we go to these sort of out the way places, obviously accessible, and you get groups of youths come in. Sometimes like, oh, for fuck's sake, what we're gonna do here now? Like they come up with the cars, lights on, and music playing, and we're like, for fuck's sake. But then they actually really sound like they come over. They'd be like, "Oh, what are you doing? You're looking for meteors? Are you looking for?" And they would give them a go with the binoculars, and then they just sort of stay out of the way a bit. So it's like, you think that could have gone like complete opposite direction. Like we're in the middle of nowhere, they could have done anything, this big group of youths or whatever. But definitely a bit of interest, ask a couple of questions, and then lead to it. So that's pretty cool sometimes.
And this is the thing, right? Like, I suppose because maybe not so much on the Skywatch thing, I'm not too familiar with it, but like on the paranormal thing, you're pretty weird if you're going looking for ghosts anyway. But like, you're there with a bunch of weird equipment and this, that, and the other, and you kind of think the worst, that someone's going to come over and go, "What are you doing?" or "What waste of time," blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it was quite surprising when they are actually like, "You guys looking for ghosts? Or have you heard about the man in the black suit that walks around here and this stuff?" And we were like, "Whoa, hang on."
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, back to it. Went to Minster Lovell, met up with Greg.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there was a lot of wind.
Yeah, a lot of wind. It was because it's like a ruins of an old house. Huge thing is, a lot of the door frames. There's obviously no doors in there, and it acts a bit like a funnel for all the wind. So we were. Mike and Patsy had the camera set up, and the wind was proper blowy at one point, and we weren't sure if the equipment was going to stay on the wall, and so
unfortunately, a lot of the footage is scuffed because of that, due to the wind noise and stuff.
Yeah, but no, it was good. We done some Alice box sessions where we were asking questions and getting responses. We done dowsing rods. We were asking questions with dowsing rods, engaging responses there. Took a load of video footage, as Mike said, but obviously the wind was a bit of a nightmare. I took a load of photos, but on a normal camera and like a full spectrum camera. But I didn't get anything at all really from my side. But
no, we didn't. As I say, we didn't get a great deal, and some of it was killed by the wind. There was a couple of interesting things through the Alice box, like, and again, like, I don't know if it throws as many words at the wall and you sort of see what sticks with the thing, but there was a point where we were in the chapel and it came through with vinegar.
Yes, it did,
and that's when Greg sort of perked up and went, "Oh, vinegar," sort of thing.
As I do.
Loves vinegar. Which Greg will explain the relevance of the term vinegar that came through.
I can't even remember now. What did I say? I can't even remember.
Vinegar came through, and you went, "That's interesting," because your wife had spilt some vinegar just before you'd come out.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
And we spent a couple of seconds. You're there going, sort of vinegar, and I'm there going, apple cider, this, that, and the other. And you're like, no, balsamic, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And then there was a couple of names that came through that were Harry and Dan. And this is why Greg had the dowsing rods as well. And I was sort of saying, is Dan Dan is are you one of Harry's relations? And they sort of started to move.
Yeah. So we sort of, once we got some answers on the Alice box, we were trying to sort of further question, weren't we?
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, and this is probably more of a coincidence than anything else, but Patsy's got a cousin called Harry and an uncle called Dan. And when we said to the dowsing rods, I said, are you Harry's father? And they didn't move. And then I said, is Harry your nephew? And they started moving and eventually crossed and stuff. Now again, that could be suggestion and coincidence and everything, but that was quite interesting.
And just to add that the bit in the chapel, there was no real wind there at all. It was just in the main hall where the wind was.
Yeah, exactly. Fortunately, there was a wall in the way that the wind was blowing.
Yeah.
What was interesting, and I kind of touched on this in the video, but what was interesting is I set up some cat balls in sort of the main sort of arch doorway hall sort of thing, and they didn't go off once all night. And I'm like, well, if it's that windy, how have they not been set off by being like jogged by the wind or anything? Which is
because we had the motion sensor lights. They would fall over every now and then, didn't they? They were on step.
Absolutely. They were caught by the wind a couple of times.
Yeah,
but it's just weird that the cat balls didn't go off once.
No, they didn't.
They're weirdly unreliable because sometimes they go off all the time. Sometimes, like from the slightest movement, other times you could like literally pound your fist next to them and nothing.
Yeah, true. So yeah, the Minster Lovell ruins visit was inconclusive, really.
Yeah. It was fun all the same, though. It was good.
We spent a few hours down there, didn't we? And it was
good to meet you and hang out with you. And
definitely.
And actually investigate somewhere.
Yeah, no, it definitely was.
Yeah. We've managed to secure the Riverside as well for October. Unfortunately, it's a long way off, but hopefully that should be a really good one.
Yeah. Do you want to tell Ash about that one? What that is?
Yeah. So the Riverside, as the name suggests, is the name doesn't suggest, but it's a pub that's basically on the river. Like, it's got a beer garden. I say garden. It's got a back to it that literally backs onto the river.
Right.
And I've investigated there previously with the group I was a member of. And we had some good results. Like, I'm sure we had something like what sounded like a young girl's voice through the spirit box at one point saying like, hey, or something. And the landlord was randomly taking photos. And at one point he got a photo of one of the members of the team, and it looked like there was sort of like a skull silhouette over her face. It's really, really weird. I'll see if I can find it for you guys.
Yeah.
At some point. And then she moved, and there was another photo of her stood next to someone, and he looks perfectly normal. Then her face is like blurred out as if she's moving, but her head hasn't moved because it's not the entire head. It's just her face. Now, if anyone can move their face independently of their head, that's a pretty clever skill. But some of that was really weird.
Sounds very Final Destination-y when you're looking at the photos.
Yeah.
Faces blurred.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And also, there's another film that does that, The Ring. Do that on The Ring, don't they? Where they look at the people in the photos and all their faces are all blurred.
I've never actually seen it.
It might be The Ring I'm thinking of. Yeah.
It might be Final Destination as well. But yeah, I know on The Ring they see video footage and it's all blurred and fuck. That freaked me out.
So Mike,
yes,
were you able to use any of your mediumship skills on any of these investigations?
That's a really good question. I'm having to rack my brain now to try and think back. It's kind of hit and miss sort of thing. Sometimes I'll walk into somewhere like, as I say, 30 East Drive. I'll walk into the main bedroom and immediately feel like there's something that doesn't want us here, this, that, and the other. And when we went to Minster Lovell as well, when I first walked into the big main hall thing, there was like a little bit of a twinge of dizziness and stuff, and I was like, whoa, okay. Whether that's a sign or whether that's just something else, I don't know. Weirdly, not necessarily. Unfortunately, like, I've not really kept up with it because it's incredibly hard to organise people. Even if attempting to do it for free, it's incredibly hard to actually pin people down and to get them to have a reading or anything. And because of that, I was a bit like, well, if I'm not able to secure the readings, what's the point in trying to stupidly? What's the point in trying to keep developing it, sort of thing? So it's kind of taken a backseat to sort of a more, I suppose, traditional paranormal investigation sort of thing.
Yeah.
I suppose it doesn't help because there is the reputation of charlatans and like frauds with the whole mediumship thing. So I understand it can be difficult to get people's trust, I guess.
And that's it exactly. Like, even though I can't necessarily explain what I've done, and there has been points where I've done readings for people and been outstanded with what's popped into my brain, there's always that part of me of like, is it actually mediumship, or am I just able to like some form of mind reading or some form of like brain connection that I can't understand or can't work out, and then at 34 years old to come out and be like, hi, I'm a medium, it just feels so fraudulent because it's like, because there are a lot of charlatans out there. In fact, I don't think we'll go into it, but me and Greg briefly spoke about it when we went to Minster Lovell. And some of these like Facebook mediums who are like, remember the guys, the more shares, the more likely it is that your loved ones will come through for you. And it's just like, I don't want to be pinned in with those people.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a strange thing because there's no. So we've spoken to a lot of people on this podcast and that have some kind of mediumship skill, if you want to call it that. And everybody we spoke to seems completely genuine. They've got no reason to disbelieve a lot of them. But like you say, the social media and the people that are blatantly doing it for something rather than helping is that one. The one that me and Mike were talking about, I'd seen one and it was I can see some pink orbs or whatever, and they were like, once we get to X amount of stars, we'll give you the reading. And it's like, but stars are like Facebook money and stuff like that. So it was a bit like, but there's like hundreds and hundreds of people on this chat commenting, going, yeah, it's giving all this money, and
insane, isn't it? The amount of people who are so forthright in their belief in it is just like, it's scary, because it's like, how can you not see that this person's cold reading and just and taking semi-educated guesses from cold reading and stuff? It's insane.
So do you want to tell us, because off air you were talking about tarot readings, and that would be, I've got something I want to put into that. So you went up, you done 30 East Drive, and then you went up to York, you done the Golden Fleece, and I know you went and had a tarot reading whilst you were on holiday, as it were.
Yeah, so the part that got left on the cutting room floor, So to give a bit of backstory, we were sort of on a mini holiday for my birthday. We went to a little town called Haworth because Patsy wanted to, for the Bronte sisters and such. And And we walked past this shop that had a sign outside saying tarot readings £30, and we just sort of looked at each other and went, "Shall we? Yeah, we're on holiday. Why don't we?" And you do stupid things like that on holiday, don't you?
Definitely.
So we went and basically booked tarot readings. Patsy had hers, and some interesting stuff came through that was somewhat relevant and apt to that point in time. And then as I sat down, the lady said to me, "Would you like a general reading, which is just like a general overview of what's going on, or would you like a specific reading about you ask a question?" And I sort of went, "Yes. Do I have any form of mediumship ability? And if so, is it something I should pursue?" And before she's even dealt the card, she sort of goes to me, "Well, I can tell you now that yes, you do, because I can feel it. I can feel your energy coming off you, and there's like some sort of connection or something there." And then she sort of looks past my shoulder and goes, "I'm sorry, love. I hate to say it, but you don't have any of this." to Patsy, and then says, "But
how did she react to that?
She was like, "Oh, thanks. I'm never the special one." Pretty much. There's sort of an ongoing joke in our household that Patsy was the one who was like always into the ghost hunting and got me to go along, and then we turn up and all of a sudden I think I'm a medium. She's like, "Why is it not me? Why am I not the special one?" sort of thing. But anyway, and then I sort of said to her, "Well, what do you mean you can feel it? What do you mean you can just sort of sense it?" And she said, like, there's like a feeling in her sort of stomach area, and a sort of like I think she said like a fuzziness or like a slight dizziness around her head. And then she started talking about crown chakras and all this sort of stuff, which comes up a lot in the mediumship side of things. Yeah, that was interesting. She said there were some interesting things at the time because I was sort of unhappy and a bit complacent with the paranormal group that I was in.
Yeah.
And she was like, after she dealt the card, she was like, the circle around you aren't who you need to be around. You need to find your tribe and need to basically find a quote unquote circle of mediums to develop if I want to develop. And then she also basically said, "Don't touch Ouija boards because it won't do you any good." And that's fine by me because I never intend on touching one anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So interesting. I don't know much about tarot cards. Do you know how many cards there are in a pack of tarot cards? I don't know.
74, something like that. 74,
Okay.
78.
It's a lot, yeah.
I only know this because after we came out for our readings, Patsy was like, "Oh, I'd quite like to learn tarot." And the woman, and while we were in there, Patsy went, "Oh, I'd quite like to learn it." And the woman just sort of went, "Do it. Go on, do it." So then we got her a set of tarot cards and a book on it, sort of thing.
The only reason I ask that is because statistics and that, although I hated maths, I like a good stat. So me and Ash, we met through our love of poker. And so there's 52 cards in a normal pack of cards. And to this date, there has never been the same combination of cards dealt more than once. And it's some astronomical figure that you would have to deal cards for like, I don't know, millions of years before you'd even get the same.
Yeah.
So which is why, is it coincidence on some of the cards? Less likely to be if there's 74, because the combination of cards is going to be
absolutely
astronomical, like literally astronomical.
With tarot though, you can, because you have like the minor and the major cards, and the split in, and you have obviously different meanings, and you can take some out and not include them. You can also have them reversed, so it's upside down and reversed, so you actually add in an extra one of every single card into the deck.
Is that no Uno?
You're a bit of a tarot reader there, Ash.
I've spent a bit of a while learning it.
Oh, that's cool, man.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's not something I've pursued, but I did find it really interesting. Just like the meanings of the cards, it's like and it is all about interpretation.
Well, this was one of you saying about them being reversed, and so every card allegedly has a meaning, and then there's like a a booklet or a book that will tell you the meanings of all the cards. Then if they come out upside down, as Ash says, that's the reverse of it, meaning wherever the meaning is, it's the opposite of it. And the first card that came out for me was the Eight of Swords, which was upside down. It's basically a guy on his knees with 8 swords around him and a blindfold on. And the woman was like, man, blindfold. This shows that in the past 6 months, whatever, for you, the blindfold's come off. Which I was like, that's pretty apt, because 6 months prior to that was when I started going paranormal. Whoa, hang on, there's a lot here. And she was bang on as well. She was like, there were certain things she said, and then as I replied, she was like, you're far too logical. You think about it too logically. You need to think about it. You need to just sort of go with it and stop trying to work everything out, sort of thing, rather than which I was like, yeah, that's true.
Wow, I didn't know, Ash, that you were into that. How have I not known that?
I was thinking I might have had my decks. I got a couple of decks here, but they're not by my desk in the other room.
That's wicked, Ash.
So that's another thing that we can try and do.
Absolutely.
So we've done like an online Estes method spirit box session. Why not an online tarot card? I know back in the day, you used to have to ring 0898 numbers to get that kind of premium rate numbers to get a tarot reader.
Sometimes you'd have a woman heavy breathing down the phone instead.
Or at the same time, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
That's going to be me. I wouldn't have done it for myself, but I'll happily.
That'd be a good one to try between you guys to get Ash to do it for you. Get the old Celtic cross out and.
I'm worried about what would be said though. You go all of a sudden because I'm obviously looking at you both. Nice T-shirt, by the way, Mike.
Anytime.
Just to throw that in, as featured on one of your YouTube channel videos, the York one, in fact.
Your listeners aren't going to see this, so that's wasted, mate.
It is. So Mike's got one of our Pursuit of the Paranormal podcast T-shirts. It's the one I've got as well, like the Bigfoot, Searching Bigfoot, I think it's called. And as featured on his YouTube channel. So
and featured on our store at www.linktree.com/Pursuit of the Paranormal to get your very own.
Yes. I'm just worried about what I might see because I'm looking. Obviously, we do this as video, but we actually put it out as audio. So I'll be able to see what Ash's face is. He pulls out a particular card and he's just like going, oh shit, how am I going to explain this?
Surely he's got a good poker face from years of playing it though.
Online playing.
He's constantly like.
He'd just be looking at me with this shocked face going, oh fuck. End the call.
You've had the death card, I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
I must say I never used when I've done readings for myself, I never got as far as using the reverse. I only ever used it as just a normal deck. Because there's so many different combinations you can use. You can put the majors in, you can take them out. You can use just the majors, just the minors. Reverse or not reverse. You can do 1 card readings, 3 card, 5 card readings. It's all different, like say Pacific ones or general ones. Like you can do yes or no ones.
And then on top of that, there's different decks as well.
Yeah.
And then different decks have different meanings and stuff. So,
okay, so talking about this, because we haven't hit tarot cards before on the podcast, how about some other kind of experiments? So tarot's another one that you can sort of use to predict futures or whatever, people's lives. Have you ever used, so I've used dowsing rods for like questions like we did at Minster. Have you ever used like a dangling crystal? So if it sways one way, it's a yes or no, or if it spins round, it's like a yes or no, or whatever you ever set. Like you set it up with the spirit or
set the intention, didn't you?
Yeah.
I haven't. Patsy got me one for my birthday, so I got one. Yeah. Ironically, I bought her one for her birthday as well, so we actually both got one. I haven't used it yet, but. No, I do have one. Anything like that. I'm a bit skeptical because obviously micro movements in the muscles in your hands can make something sway, and when you've got a massive chain on it, any small movement's more likely to make it move. Same with dowsing rods. Generally speaking, dowsing rods seem to move a lot more in the person's non-dominant hand than their dominant hand, which is something I picked up on, and I'm like, is that just because the muscles are weaker, so they're less prone to
maybe
moving something?
The reason I said that is because I've used this dangling crystal on a paranormal investigation before. I belong to a group now in Whitney, but I used to belong to another one around this area some years ago, and we used crystals at this particular venue that we'd been to a few times. Coombe Mill is. Some weird things happened there, and that's where I found dowsing rods actually worked for the first time. And I was just like, what? How's that even a thing with the water? Anyway, so we did that exact same thing. We had the crystals, and we were asking questions. So there was five of us, and one person behind asking questions. And the people had to face the other way, so they couldn't see me, for example, and I couldn't see them. And they would they would basically shout out the answer themselves. So if I said something, they would go yes or no, and we'd see what everybody got.
That's a really good technique, especially as you say, not facing each other, so you can't be, because we're all so prone to suggestion that you just be like, he said yes, so I'll say it as well.
And the question was, am I wearing red socks or am I wearing blue socks? Because they couldn't see me and they couldn't see my feet. So if you get a yes or a no answer from everybody, chances are that's not a coincidence. That's more of
it's what we goes back to what we were saying, that it's too coincidental to be coincidental, sort of thing. Yeah. There's a little bit of footage of it in the 30s Drive video, but we started off the night by doing the human pendulum. If you've heard of that, no, I'd heard of it.
Yeah. I think Mike talked about it last week.
Cool.
Yes, he did.
So I'd heard about it, but never seen it. And a couple of people had to go before me. But as he was asking questions and stuff, I was stood in the corner of the room just in front of the airing cupboard. And as he's asking questions and the people are moving, I'm in the corner also going.
Okay.
In whatever direction was yes or no for me, and one of the hosts is there going, oh yeah, you do tend to find sometimes with sensitive people that they are more prone to it and this, that and the other. So I'm there stood in the corner rocking back and forth like a maniac. That sounds bad. So I was like, well, is this just uneven floorboards or is this just power of suggestion or whatever? So I moved over to the other side of the room and I was still going as he was asking questions. And that was weird because that definitely felt like I was sort of losing my balance, either like forwards or backwards.
Yeah, weird.
So yeah, it wasn't Mike where I heard this. It was actually last night at our UFO meetup. And I'm sure she won't mind me sharing this story. But Abby, who's been on the podcast a couple of times and is part of the UFO Identified group, we were just talking about experiences, and she'd been on an investigation where they're using the human pendulum. And they had the girl in the middle. And then Abby and another guy were like the ones there ready to support if she fell or whatever. So the girl being the pendulum was called Abigail as well. So the guy was asking the questions was saying like, Abigail, blah, blah, blah. So they're doing the questions and nothing's really happening. But Abigail, kept like feeling herself move backwards, move forwards. And it went on for a little bit, and then the guy running it said to like, what's your name? She's like, Abigail. And it's like they're asking the wrong one. So then they moved our Abby into the middle and then used her as the pendulum. So it's like she was reacting to the questions. So I knew I'd heard of it. It was literally last night as we were at the UFO meeting.
And again, this could go back to maybe this Abigail lady is sensitive in some way, shape, or form, and that's why
she is. Yeah.
There you go. That's why she's the one being picked up on, and this and ever, even though she's not like the focal point for the thing. Go back to what you were saying.
It was Abigail's name that came up when we went to Cannock Chase.
Yes, yeah, I remember you guys saying.
And the spirit box, and Ash said her name in response to a question. So yeah, maybe we need to get her out and about on more stuff.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Mike, I interrupted you there.
No, you're good. Yeah, but going back to tarot cards, it's something that I think there's probably some merit in trying them in some way, shape, or form on an investigation. I don't know how they'd really work or what you'd really gain from it, but it's all in the same sphere, right? So anything's worth trying.
Well, that's it, yeah.
I think you could probably use them like in preparation, because you can you'd use it for guidance on maybe like what we should do on the investigation, stuff like that. I think maybe.
Yeah, it's a bit of a funny one because we like to go in. I know some people say, "Oh, you should investigate the location," blah blah blah. But we kind of like to go in as blind as possible, because that way, if we do get anything, we can then investigate afterwards and go, "Oh, that corroborates with what we experienced."
Yeah,
and also there's a real issue with certain people in the paranormal whatever industry is the wrong word, who will go somewhere. Let's say, for instance, that you think there's the ghost of Henry VIII somewhere. They'll go on an investigation, and all night all they'll be doing is, "Oh, is Henry here? Is Henry? Did you have parties here, Henry?" And it's like, you're too fixated on one specific person, like, and that's just a pet peeve of mine generally. But it seems like one of those things where like people can get too fixated on someone who's allegedly there, or the spirit of someone who's allegedly there, and I think that can be counterproductive in some instances.
Do you think people will almost try and fit the evidence they get to that narrative?
There's that as well, right?
Yeah.
This is very quickly going to turn into a rant about the issues with the paranormal community. But
it's funny because I went on
a couple of them.
Yeah, we have. And there's some guy, Jesse King, that we had on, who's on TikTok, and he's very open with the fact that he absolutely hates the paranormal field, even though weirdly that's what's made him famous is the wrong word, but he's made his name as what he does in the paranormal field, and he just says
it's a real funny one, right? Because there are, and I'm no authority because I'm super new to all this, so anything I now say is to be taken with a pinch of salt. There are some people that are amazing investigators, like thoughtful and logical and all the other superlatives that I can't think of at the moment. Yeah. But then, like, it's almost like you get the uber scientific side, who nothing is ever paranormal. And if your EMF goes off randomly, now admittedly EMF's a weird one, but if your EMF goes off randomly, has it been calibrated properly though? And it's like, I'm pretty sure, like, that's not a get out for every EMF across the paranormal community that's ever gone off. And then there's the other side of it, where wood settling and water flowing through pipes is paranormal. And it's just like, how? How? Yeah. And then we briefly spoke about this before as well. It's the community seems so hell-bent on cannibalizing itself.
Oh, it does.
In the sense that Karen.
Yeah, I was going to say people put stuff up on Facebook and you can't, or any social media, and you don't know whether or not they're doing it to create tension. You don't know whether they're doing it to stir a negative response from people, or whether they just genuinely believe that what they're seeing is paranormal. There's somebody on one of the groups that I've been on today, and I'm just like, putting pictures up with no context. It's like, well, what the fuck is that? I put, what am I actually supposed to be looking at? There's no context to it, and it could be anything. So at least give me an idea of what I'm supposed to be looking at. But
this is the thing. Like, it's like the mediumship thing. there's a lot of people who, there's people out there who outrightly fake evidence for whatever reason. There's also people who, fair enough, if you are like, I don't know, misguided or something, there's that side of it as well. On top of that, the way I see it is we're all in this same boat where whether you're trying to prove it to skeptics or whether you're just trying to prove it to yourself, we're all trying to find evidence of it, right? So then why in the hell is there so much infighting and so much bitchiness and people like, oh, that group's not very good because of this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. Like, if you collaborated, you get a hell of a lot further.
Yeah.
Like, rather than worry about someone else getting better evidence than you and potentially making money off it or whatever, which is never going to happen because there's no money in it. Yeah, it's weird. And we spoke about this previously as well, Greg, that like the UFO side of things, there's task forces, and there's like government organizations who are made to look into UFOs. The paranormal does not have that whatsoever. And it's just like, why? Why is it taken less seriously?
Yeah. When it appears more people have a paranormal experience than, say, a UFO experience.
Yeah, like when
in my experience, people, because it's in people's houses a lot of the time.
Absolutely.
When people are more accepting of, there's a ghost in my house, rather than saying, oh, I saw a UFO. Seems to be more accepted to say you've got a ghost or seen a ghost than a UFO.
This was the thing. Like when I first started getting interested in the paranormal and looking into it, almost everyone I spoke to was like, oh, I've had an experience. Like almost everyone's got like a personal ghost story. And whether that is actually paranormal or whether it's the floorboards creaking is a vastly different matter. But it's just like almost everyone's got an experience. It's so weird.
Yeah.
And again, no one talks about it.
No, they don't. Because you're labelled as a bit
of a weirdo, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm hitting all of it with a podcast, UFOs, paranormal.
Absolutely. Get David Icon next. Really seal the deal.
He's trying.
I'll tell you what.
Oh my God.
I'm trying. You laugh. I've got loads of his books.
You've said before. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting character. Quite divisive, as a lot of people are in this world that we live in.
The issue is it's entirely theoretical, right?
Yeah.
So there's no authority, there's no experts who can go this, that, the other, and like. And
that's
the thing. I was talking to my uncle recently, and I was like, I know full well that the chances of me ever actually getting any evidence whatsoever that ghosts are real or this, that, the other is very slim to happen. He just sort of looks at me and went, well, why'd you do it then? And it's like, it's a very good question.
It's a very good question. But the same with the UFO field as well. It's like the people like yourself, Ash, going up and doing the sky watches and just hoping that you guys will see something or something will happen. But same with the paranormal investigations. I've been on loads where nothing happens at all, and you're there for hours just thinking.
If you do see something, the chance of getting it on camera, that's actually you can actually see something on the camera as well. It's just even higher odds.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can actually say this is something unusual.
But is that not just the that's almost it's not the thrill of the chase, but the fact that it's always just that little bit out of grasp. Like that bit of evidence is almost there. That light in the sky that seems to have gone across the sky. What if it was, or that glass just fell off the desk? Imagine if that was a ghost. Or I think it's natural sort of curiosity. I think that pushes and drives people. What is this paranormal thing? What is this UFO subject? What is causing all of these things to happen? And I think natural curiosity, like why are we even bothering sending probes to Mars? What's the point? But it's because we've got curiosity, I think, and people are not content with well, a lot of people are content with just going about their daily lives, but it is kind of quite cool to look into ghosts and UFOs, and I think it's
Yeah. And as you said, like, or as you touched on, the reality of ghost hunting is it's fucking boring. Like,
a lot of the time.
A lot of the time, it's really boring, and you're right. It's the thrill of the chase that something may happen. I think, generally speaking, like, if you're going to get into the paranormal field, you can only really do it for yourself, because if you're going into it thinking that you're going to earn loads of money or you're going to get notoriety from it, not notoriety, or fame from it, which you can do, but it's very unlikely.
Could be notoriety.
Yeah. But you kind of have to do it for yourself, because you're not going to change anyone's mind. So I'm not trying to convince anyone. I'm just interested for my own, for myself, sort of thing.
Definitely. And it's one of those things, it tends to be somebody will only believe you once they've either got an interest or they've had some kind of experience. Same with the UFOs. Until people have seen it, they're like, oh, it's all nonsense. Or
you have to have...
Go on, sorry.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you, to be fair, mate. You have to have your own experience, because anecdotal evidence isn't evidence. Mm-hmm. Like someone saying, and the human memory's trash, like, it's not to be trusted whatsoever, but someone saying, like, oh, I was at home and then the coffee table flung across the room. That's just one person saying that. And not that you shouldn't believe people, but it's not like factual evidence. Someone said that sort of thing, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, we've spoken to people who've had Bibles burning in their in their house, and you're just like, is it? You just don't, until you have that kind of experience, or you were there. It's very difficult to sort of believe's the wrong word.
You have to be very open-minded.
Yeah, you do. You have to accept that strangers are telling you things that, to a non-believing person who's closed-minded, just seems mental, for want of a better phrase, crazy in the extreme, and at the very best, a lie.
Yeah.
But like me and Ash have said before, like, we can come off a call, and John Edmonds, for example, at Stardust Ranch, has killed 19 grey aliens. He's had paranormal experiences, ghost adventures have been there, Men in Black. And I said to Ash, even if 1% of that was true, and he'd lied about everything else, if 1% of what he said was true, that's insane.
Absolutely.
And so mad.
To now offer you an anecdote that contradicts everything I've just said about anecdotal evidence not being evidence.
Yeah.
So have you heard of the Hat Man?
Batman?
Yeah, him, no. Hat Man.
Oh, Hat Man, no.
Okay. So this was around Christmas time. Now, Patsy had caught COVID just before Christmas, literally 3 days before. And this was not long after I'd started learning about the whole mediumship sort of things. And we were in bed and we were trying to go off to sleep. And occasionally, as I'd start to drift off, it'd almost be as if, like, people would pop into my mind. And I equated it to, like, that's visitors coming to this and that. And every time I'm like, I'm going to sleep, mate, I can't. Sorry. Now, so this is just before Christmas. Patsy's got COVID. I'm just drifting off to sleep, and all of a sudden there's a very tall man wearing what felt like a top hat or like some sort of brimmed hat stood in the doorway of our room. Now, so yeah, he stood in the doorway. I can't be bothered to explain how the door opens in our room because that's not entertaining. He stood in the doorway. And
doesn't work so well on audio either.
No, exactly. Like, and I'm starting to drift off to sleep, and he's turned up, and I'm like, I'm really sorry, dude. I can't deal with you at the moment. Like, I'm trying to go to sleep. And he's just stood there. Like, normally, I say that and they fuck off.
Yeah.
And he's just stood there. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm like I can't, like, she's really ill. Like, I can't deal with this at the moment, sort of thing. And it was almost like lingered for a bit longer, disgruntled, and then left. So this was back in December. Last week or the last 2 weeks, I'm watching random YouTube videos, and one of the things that comes up is apparently an entity known as Hat Man, which people experience a lot during sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
Now, I have never had sleep paralysis. This was me drifting off to sleep. But they said in sleep paralysis, the Hat Man will normally, like, stand in doorways and just watch people, among other things. And then, like, the whole scientific explanation is obviously sleep paralysis. You start to hallucinate. But then the video I start watching, they say about, but if that's the case, why is the hallucination the same from all these different countries and all these different cultures, and multiple people reporting the same thing, or seeing and experiencing the same thing as they're having a sleep paralysis episode? And again, this is like 6 months later watching a YouTube video. I'm just thinking, fucking hell, like, that's very similar to what happened to me. And I was like, oh God.
So do you think it's a coincidence that you found that video or no?
I have no idea. Absolutely no idea. But the weird thing is, after that night, seemingly I haven't had, as I'm drifting off to sleep, I haven't had any more quote-unquote visitors. So I'm just like, oh. That was, again,
super
could be
weird.
bollocks because it's an anecdote, but
it was
something very odd that happened.
Yeah. I don't know how I'd react to that. That'd be weird.
Yeah, as I say,
it's strange because last night we were talking about a Hat Man at the UFO meeting, different to what you've been describing as what his purpose was, but it's just, again, it's
how weird's that?
And it's actually Abigail talking about a Hat Man as well. So,
oh wow,
again, coincidences, like, just
it's mad,
I stay quiet to sort of hear what your Hat Man was, to comparing it, and it's different things, but it's obviously similar in some aspects. So it's just a bit.
That's odd,
weird. Yeah.
As I say, if you go on YouTube and search for Hat Man, there's like there's a few videos explaining like what it is and people experiencing that, and yeah, it was just all a bit of a weird, surreal moment where I was like, hang on a minute. And while you're on YouTube, visit Paranormal as well and watch my videos.
Nice segue.
Yeah.
So what is next for Power Mike? I know you mentioned you got the Riverside in October. Anything else planned coming up?
We've got a couple. We don't want to go down the whole sort of pseudo-urban exploring route and be breaking into houses, because I don't want to be crawling through glass and brambles, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, fair point.
But no, we're trying to find a couple of free ones, much like Minster Lovell. Other than that, I know of a couple of sort of haunted pubs around the area. And then it's just a case of either getting in contact with them, and if they say no, it may be a case we will do like we did with the Golden Fleece and sort of rent a room for a night and then do an investigation overnight. Also, Brown's Folly, that Greg inadvertently tipped me off to in the Haunted Roads episode. He was talking about Sally in the Wood. Road.
Okay, yeah.
The minute he mentioned Wiltshire, I was like, Wiltshire, hello. And there's actually an alleged haunted pub 5-10 minutes from Brown's Folly, so I was like, we can go and do that and do like 2 for 1 sort of thing.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah,
I don't know about Haunted Woods, but
I've already said to Pats we're doing that one during the day because that'll get very sketchy at night.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Especially, I googled it real quick, and the Folly's in like the middle of the woods, and I'm like, there's no way we're trekking back through those woods at midnight or whatever.
No. No, not so good.
Cool. So, where can our listeners find your new YouTube and any other social media?
So the YouTube channel is Paramike, which is Paramike. The only social media we have at the moment is Instagram, which is Paramike87. Did think about setting up a Facebook, but I don't want to spend my day arguing with people.
Yeah.
And
It's quite a unique place.
yeah, and we're umming and ahhing about a TikTok at the moment, but I'm not. I don't know if I can bring myself to it.
It's all right on there.
Really?
It's a strange place. It's a strange place.
We have big plans for TikTok.
I was very tempted after you said that there's loads of paranormal stuff on there. But
yeah, there is. There is. Whether or not a lot of it's true or not, I don't know. But
yeah, even so, it's a place to grow in it. So
yeah, definitely. Cool. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
No problem.
And did you just catch her? And
sorry, there's a moth.
Got a love for summer in the UK.
We just bought a load of nets off Amazon and put them all around the windows to like.
Oh, that's an amazing idea.
It's like 13 quid and like do every window in the house. Just cover them up so really, really tiny ones can still get in, but like moss and shit can't get in.
That's an amazing idea.
And it still lets the air in, so it's good.
Okay. I'll have to get on Amazon in a minute, I think. So we have mosquitoes. Horrible.
Jeez.
But yeah, on that note, thank you very much for coming on again, Mike. It was a pleasure to chat, and it was a pleasure to meet you at Minster as well. So hopefully we can try and do something again while the weather is good before the end of the year.
Pursuit of the Paranormal with Ash and Greg.